Now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what Indians are all about.
I still say we Indian people are believers in the truth. This is the way of life that was given to your people. You're born an Indian, you're going to die an Indian. Indianness is a good life. You're facing an Indian this afternoon.
Good Saturday afternoon out there, everyone. Welcome to your number one source for Native American television news. It's Muskogee Vision. I am your host, Jason Salzman, from the Muskogee Media Studios, and we are excited for this episode, bringing you lots of updates, lots of things going on around Muskogee Creek Nation, lots of news to get you up to speed on, and we'll be doing that here in this episode. Lots of things to talk about, as well as telling the story of a breast cancer survivor. All of that and more after this first break. You're watching Muskogee Vision.
As part of our grand reopening, we're partnering with Muskogee Media.
We're just getting ready to do another one of our $100 shopping spree giveaways, and I wanted to give a big thank you to the Muskogee Media for sponsoring this event.
Like Randy's Foods and Muskogee Media on Facebook and share this video for the drawing.
And welcome back to the program as we get started this week. You know, we just have a few days left in the month of October, and October every year known as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it's touched so many lives, and I'm sure those of you watching out there know someone, whether it be a family member, a friend, an acquaintance, loved one that's been touched by breast cancer. Pink Party is a big event every year here at Creek Nation. This is the story of one Muskogee Creek woman's survival.
My name's Krista Dunzy. I live in Dewar and I'm 26 years old. I was diagnosed with breast cancer on March 12th. So it's been 7 months now, I believe. I had found a lump on my right breast and went to the doctor, and about 3 or 4 days later I was diagnosed with stage 2 invasive ductal carcinoma, which is like the most common type of breast cancer. I was 25 at the time and I just turned 26 in September. I have done chemotherapy. I did 16 rounds of chemo through Hillcrest. They have been wonderful. And then I had a double mastectomy done also on September 17th, and then I'll also have to do radiation probably about 2 or 3 weeks from now. I'll have to do 6 weeks of radiation, so it's been a long road. My mom had genetic testing done, I had genetic testing done, and it all came back to just be just something that happens. It wasn't genetic. I'm not a carrier of any kind of breast cancer gene or anything like that. It's just, I was one of the rare cases, you know, for someone under the age of 40, really. I didn't know how to feel, honestly. I didn't know. At that time, whenever I was diagnosed, all they knew was that I had cancer, and that all my pathology tests from my biopsy had said that, yes, I do have cancer. They just had to test it further to see what stage it was. And of course I had to do a ton of scans and imaging and all kinds of things to figure out what stage it was and how it could be treated and everything. So for almost a week, that was the roughest, because the not knowing if it was really aggressive or how much it had progressed since it had been there, or how long it had been there. Just the not knowing, that kind of gray area. But in a way, from the moment that I was diagnosed, I have really tried to think about my perspective on everything, as far as like, I realized how rough it would be having cancer at a young age or at any age, but also I realized that there are girls my age who have probably died from this disease because they don't have insurance, or they're not Native and they don't have any way to go to Indian health care or anything. And so I just try to keep my perspective on the good things rather than dwelling. Even after my diagnosis, there were things that I didn't know that I had no idea about breast cancer. Even though my mom had it, my mom didn't have to do chemotherapy. She didn't have to do radiation. And so there was a lot of things that I didn't know, and it just, it definitely made you think about your future. It still does. I mean, doing chemotherapy, I did 16 rounds, and so one of the side effects is obviously hair loss. My hair's growing back now, but and not just the superficial things like losing your hair or losing weight or your eyebrows, your eyelashes, whatever. One of the side effects of chemotherapy is that there's a possibility that you could become infertile, and a lot of people don't know that. So for me, that was my biggest thing that bothered me, like, about all this, is that I knew right in the moment I was gonna fight and do whatever I could, but I wanted to be able to still live the life that I want after all this is over. Well, I would like to get married and have children. I have 9 nieces and nephews, and they're hilarious. They're from the ages of 23 to 3, and so they're crazy, they're funny, and I get to spoil them and send them home. So I love them so much. I can't imagine what it'll be like, to have my own children someday, and I hope I get the opportunity to do that. But it's also kind of been a humbling experience too, because I work for Children and Family Services here for the tribe. So I see the things that other children go through, that I'm not completely hopeless. If that doesn't happen for me and I'm not able to have children of my own, the tribe always is in need of foster care families and adoption families. And either way, I think that I'm gonna get what I need and get what I want, and so I'm hopeful. My family, knowing that my mom and 2 of her cousins have went through this, and with one of my cousins, Marcia, going through it for so long. She was diagnosed, I believe, at the age of 42, and she had to go through countless rounds of chemo, radiation, surgeries. Just knowing that she did it for so long gave me strength that, I needed to just keep on keeping on, really. I mean, if she could do it for so long, then I can too. And I know that even though she's gone, that she's still here, and it's kind of brought me closer to her. But really, my family and having great friends, and I'm from a small community in Dewar, and everybody knows everybody, and everybody's supportive and always asking how you are, do you need anything, is there anything that I can do for you, and just that. And I think the resiliency of being Native in general, like, especially to be Creek and know what our ancestors went through and know that it's in my blood to be resilient. Someone always has it worse. Not to downplay anything that anyone is going through. It's just that even though unfortunate things have happened to me since I was diagnosed and being diagnosed and everything, someone always has it worse. I've been fortunate enough to meet people who are going through treatment with me, or who have just finished treatment, who, they have children to think about, or, children to take care of, that they aren't able to just focus on themselves. And, one of my friends, when she was diagnosed, her cancer was more progressive, and she has a young girl, and I just try to keep my perspective on other people, honestly, and their struggles. And somebody always has it worse, and I can't have so much self-pity as you would think someone would have, I guess, who has cancer, because it's not easy by any means. But just knowing that it's only temporary. I mean, everything is temporary, everything is fleeting. Happiness, sadness, pain, anger, it doesn't matter what it is, it's all fleeting. And the pain and struggle that I've had is only temporary, so that keeps me going. And my family is very close, and that's the best way I can describe myself, I guess, is my family. Like, I'm a reflection on them, and they're a reflection on me. I feel like when all this is over, that I'm gonna be able to conquer whatever I need to. I think everything happens for a reason, and so I think there's a reason that this happened to me, and there's a reason that that I'm gonna be able to push through this and do great things for myself and others also, and hopefully be able to, reach out to others who are going through this, and young and old, and just help other people. And I think it's just put a fire under me, honestly, about everything.
And we want to thank Krista Dunsey for coming in and being so courageous and having that story to tell. And we just certainly wish her well and all the best in her continued fight. And really everybody out there that this has touched. And it's something really that we take a lot of very seriously here at Muskogee Creek Nation, obviously, with the Pink Party every year. Well, and through committee, now going to the full council, a law to repeal and replace the Public Officials Ethics Commission with campaign finance. We talked with the commission representative this week about the repeal.
I found out about it this morning from a message that you had sent, kind of asking what my thoughts were. And then I immediately called Shirley Almarigi, who's the chairperson for the commission, and she hadn't heard about it. She didn't know the vote was coming up, so she was unaware. I think she'd spoken to the speaker last week, and he informed her that something like this might be coming, but didn't give her a time frame or let her know when it might be coming. So we were all kind of taken by surprise on this, and really, this is the first time I'm seeing the draft of the proposed legislation. I mean, it's kind of disappointing to know that the commission's been at work on this for over a year, since that original legislation was passed, and we've spent hours studying best practices and procedures from other jurisdictions and other tribes, trying to find out the best way to do these things, the best way to administer these rules and regulations. So it's kind of disappointing, and I would urge to not eliminate the commission as an administrative body, the Ethics Commission, and to not combine it with the Election Board, because it's a completely distinct administrative function. The Ethics Commission, our task was campaign finance. That's it. Nothing. The Election Board, they run the elections. They determine who can be candidates and who qualifies for candidacy, and we just make sure that they're reporting the money that they're getting properly, and not doing anything kind of behind the scenes that might impair their neutrality or might make them beholden to a certain special interest group. So I think that these are just two such distinct functions. It's best to keep them with two separate administrative bodies. Yeah, the Election Board sent they sent us a letter with some concerns that they have where our duties might be overlapping with some of theirs, because I don't know that they had, at that point they had seen the legislation that created the commission, but they hadn't seen any of our proposed rules yet. So I think their concerns were fair, that they wanted to make sure there was not going to be any overlap on duties. And then so I took the letter that they sent and kind of went point by point and addressed their concerns and demonstrated that the legislation that the council had passed creating the Ethics Commission was creating an administrative body with a completely separate function, and there would be no overlap. We solely were to deal with the money, and I thought that was an acceptable response. We didn't hear anything back from the Election Board after that, so we kind of assumed that addressed their concerns, and maybe we were going to be able to move forward without any issues. My dad is, we knew the whole time that this would be an uphill battle, because an element of the legislation that was originally passed was that any rule that we proposed had to fall back to the council to be approved again. It's a difficult situation passing rules that are going to apply to the people who have to approve the rules. So we knew that would be an uphill battle, but I'm disappointed to see it going this direction, and I would urge the council to keep them in two separate administrative bodies.
Okay, so the board met with the Ethics Commission, I believe it was in March of this year. I think on the 26th, I believe, March 26th. We had received a copy of a rough draft, like even an earlier version of the rough draft that they presented publicly, and we reviewed it. The board reviewed it, and there were a lot of conflicts, especially with the dates for the deadlines for their reporting of the candidate. That the candidates would have to submit reports.
Okay.
To the Ethics Commission.
Okay.
And those dates and the timing of those dates conflicted with the election process itself. So, just for an example, and I believe a lot of those same dates were in place with this current version of the Ethics Commission's rules and regulations.
Okay.
So, what would happen is, just as an example, as a basic example I could give, would be if a candidate was required to submit a preliminary report or their very first report, according to the Ethics Commission's proposed deadlines for such a report. there would already be a lot of things that would have taken place with the election process itself by the time that candidate would have submitted their report. And based off what that report had said, if there was a complaint that was issued, to say, hey, Ethics Commission or whomever, you need to investigate this, there could have been a lot of things that could have been put on hold. And the voters themselves, there was a possibility that, we would have to, recall, ballots to like absentee voters that we have sent out, because depending on what the Ethics Commission, felt or what they ruled, if a candidate was going to be eligible or ineligible, well, then we would have to recall those ballots that we had sent out and sent out a completely new set of ballots. So that was one of the major conflicts that the board seen right off the bat, that we knew that it was really going to, start causing a lot of hoops for everybody to have to jump through.
Okay.
So one of our attempts in the version that we presented to the council was to reconcile that conflict with the way that the deadlines for the reporting process for the candidates, how that would take place, when those deadlines would be, and we believe we've done that. We believe we've accomplished that. We had a meeting with them March 26th of this year.
Okay.
And we presented those concerns that we had.
Okay.
And they said, well, we're not even sure this is, final yet, but we were like, the board was attempting to actually help the Ethics Commission.
Right.
So they were like, hey, these are some concerns we have. If you guys, can look at these and maybe we can get something worked out, well then, there's a possibility that this could work. Okay. But that follow-up discussion after that initial conversation never happened. The Ethics Commission went on ahead and did what they did and kept everything basically the same. And that's what we wanted to really, the main point we wanted to bring across was just, we wanted to get away some of the conflicts. We didn't want to cause confusion to the voters. And we believe that this was just the best way to reconcile all this and to have it, underneath one entity.
All right, and as we wrap up for this week, if you've been watching us the last few weeks, you know that the Muskogee Creek Nation has been involved in a lot of legal happenings, whether it be the Friedman case, the Murphy case, what's been going on in Eufaula, the IHS suit, the opioid crisis, many different things. And you've been watching us, so you've been seeing a little bit of it, but we're going to catch you up to speed if you haven't. And I want to thank Jared Moore. He put together this little retrospective on a lot of the legal happenings going on with Muskogee Creek Nation. And here is an update to get you caught up on all of that.
Native American rights are often impacted in the court of law. Tribal governments and courts take part in legal disputes involving internal and external entities that define and redefine the legal rights Native citizens have in tribal and United States courts. It can be difficult to follow the changing legal interpretations and definitions associated with Native American law. And several landmark cases are currently in the U.S. court system that could fundamentally change the future of Muskogee Creek Nation. Oral arguments in Carpenter v. Murphy are set to begin on Tuesday, November 27th in the United States Supreme Court. The question before the court is whether the 1866 territorial boundaries of the Creek Nation within the former Indian Territory of eastern Oklahoma constitute an Indian reservation today under 18 U.S.C. Section 1151A. If the Supreme Court decides that the 1866 boundaries of the Creek Nation constitute a reservation today, all local and state municipalities will no longer have criminal jurisdiction over Native American citizens within those boundaries. In addition, any Native American citizen that was arrested and convicted of a crime by the state of Oklahoma within the same boundaries would be entitled to an appeal and possible release due to lack of jurisdiction on the state's part. Muskogee Vision will have more from oral arguments on this case in the first week in December. July 26th of this year, two Friedman descendants held a press conference to announce a lawsuit against MCN Principal Chief James Floyd and the Department of the Interior. The suit seeks full citizenship for the plaintiffs in the Muskogee Creek Nation. On October 5th, both the DOI and Principal Chief James Floyd filed motions to dismiss the case. Plaintiff's response to motion was set for October 29th. Ultimately, the decision in this case could impact the requirements of citizenship for the MCN, as well as possibly require amendments to the MCN Constitution. May 1st of this year, MCN filed suit against the United States Department of Health and Human Services in an attempt to recover $94 million in alleged underpaid funding. September 14th, both parties to the suit filed a motion to stay the proceedings so that they can continue the settlement negotiations. September 24th, the motion was granted with the condition that each party should periodically report to the court on the progress of negotiations before or on October 31st, November 30th, and December 31st. July 17th, Eufaula Indian Community CEO Judd Pickering, Treasurer Tawana Susie Deer, and Office Manager Lydia Anglin were charged by MCN with theft of the nation's funds, program income, and other federal funds. The complaints allege Pickering stole $42,517 from community center funds, Anglin $13,631, and Deer $6,350. All three individuals entered pleas of not guilty. Further deposition in the case is scheduled for November 26th in the MCN District Court. April 3rd, the Muskogee Creek Nation filed a lawsuit against 7 opioid manufacturers. In an MCN press release, the 7 manufacturers named in the suit are Purdue Pharma LP, Purdue Pharma Inc., the Purdue Frederick Company, and Endo Health Solutions, Inc., as well as distributors McKesson Corporation, Cardinal Health Incorporated, and Amerisource Bergen Corporation, as well as pharmacies CVS Health Corporation, Walgreens Boots Alliance Inc., and Walmart Stores Incorporated. The case was transferred from the Northern Oklahoma District Court to the Northern Ohio District Court for inclusion in the multi-district lawsuit MDL 2804, which is a consolidation of over 450 similar lawsuits against opiate manufacturers. Litigation is ongoing in this lawsuit. Muskogee Media will update any information related with these cases as it becomes available.
All right, and there you have it. This week's episode of Muskogee Vision. We want to thank everybody out there for joining us here on the Tulsa CW Network. And if you can't catch us here every Saturday, watch us on YouTube, our online channel. You can subscribe, hit that red button. You get all the episodes, you get all of the playlists, different things. If you want to just watch certain videos, that's on there, and you get everything as we upload it. So it's a great resource. And also go to all of our social media sites, Facebook, Muskogee Media, MuskogeeMedia.com. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time.